This is Open Door with Vince Robinson. In-depth conversations with people who are making a difference in the lives of others here and around the world. Culture is at the heart of who you are. Know your culture, find yourself on Open Door with Vince Robinson.
Grand Dawn and Great Rising, Cleveland, Ohio, and the rest of planet Earth. Welcome to another edition of Open Door with Vince Robinson. Today, I'd like to introduce you to something called the Young Cleveland Renaissance. A few Fridays ago, I had the opportunity to go to the Capitol Theater on the city's west side, and I witnessed some films, short films that were connected to this group, and there are two individuals in the group. The Young Cleveland Renaissance is a collective of artists operating as a vehicle for promoting emerging artists and those already established. The collective was formed in 2022 by Aaron Williams and Toby Griffiths and quickly expanded to include a wide range of interdisciplinary artists of different backgrounds. So, Aaron D. Williams and Toby Griffiths. Aaron is a Cleveland-based multimedia artist and entrepreneur, a multi-dimensional creative working primarily in mixed media. He blends the aesthetics of contemporary design, traditional painting, and street art to examine topics of social significance related to identity and culture. Toby Griffiths is a multimedia artist from Cleveland. He is one who received his BFA in painting in 2014 from the Cleveland Institute of Art. Originally trained as a painter, the use of camera for gathering reference material for painting led him to additionally expressing himself via photography. His journey through painting and photography ultimately created a profound appreciation for filmmaking, and he has recently completed his second short film, Brother Joy. I saw that film. It was quite interesting, and I think Toby had a starring role in that film. I enjoyed it immensely. And Aaron, I witnessed the proposal that you wrote for the Transformative Art Fund, and I think I saw a piece of your concept in one of the films that I watched, but I'm digressing. Welcome to Open Door, Aaron Williams and Toby Griffiths.
Yo, what's going on, Vince? How's it going, man? We appreciate you for having us on today.
Yes, and I will also say that I met Aaron a few years ago at an art gallery over Mayhalls on the west side, and I was quite impressed with him. And this is in the beginning stages of his career, and so much has happened since that day. And I'm really excited for him and all the wonderful things that he's been able to do. And some of those things he'll share with us before this broadcast ends. But again, I'd like to welcome you to Open Door. And I'll start with Aaron. Aaron, it seems as though this might have been your idea, and I'm going to give Toby the credit that he's due us also. But what was the idea that resulted in the birth of Young Cleveland Renaissance?
Sure. I think, like you mentioned, we met very early on in my career. And even when we first met, I remember us having conversations, or I remember telling you rather about my intentions around, some of the things that I wanted to accomplish, not only for myself, but for the city. And some of those things, or I know one of those things in particular, was just being able to see the city collaborate more on a unified front. So even back then, just kind of having a vision and having like this idea of, what it would look like to have everybody in the city collaborate more frequently, or not only more frequently, but more intentionally on, like these larger scale projects. I think that's always been like a passion of mine from the jump. So being able to move forward with those intentions and being able to attract like-minded individuals, honestly, I don't think it was that much long, or not that much long after you and I met, Vince, that I was able to come in contact with Toby here. And really from us just being able to get to know one another and get familiar with each other's crafts, we found out that we had a lot of similarities in terms of having this shared vision and, just wanting to make really dope work. So initially, us collaborating looked like us kind of really just going back and forth in terms of having these ideas and concepts and like referencing each other's work. So it was kind of done so very like innocently, and I think it was just kind of us just really not only being able to like have like that early appreciation for one another early on, but I think he was able to see that we in fact could work really well together. And then I think that kind of, one thing led to another.
Yes. Well, I remember in that conversation that you mentioned collaboration. So you're definitely a person of your words because you have done exactly that. Toby, talk to us about your involvement in the genesis of the Young Cleveland Renaissance.
Sure. So I think it was about 2 years ago, actually, this November. I had received a grant to make a project called what I call the Inner Museum Through Spaces. And the idea was I was making these photographic kind of collage pieces that I was going to incorporate, just other artists that I knew in the city that I appreciated. And me and Aaron had met a few months earlier. And it was just, when you meet somebody and there's just that spark, you kind of know, okay, like destiny is kind of bringing us together for something. You can kind of feel it. So, he was instantly one of the first artists that I thought of to be a part of the show, to collaborate, get into this joint space with. So we met at his studio, and, I'm setting up the photo backdrop and everything. But we're kind of just going over like just art and philosophy, talking about the city. I was asking him about a lot of what he was doing. He had just recently come off the show at Mocha. So I really just wanted to, he was 2 steps ahead of me in that aspect of being in these spaces that I was, working my way towards. So there was a lot to gain from that. And, coming from the painting background, I was thinking about, I've studied the Renaissance, but just the Renaissance in the terms of what it actually means is a rebirth. And we were just looking at the city and seeing how can we activate spaces? How can we kind of come up with these plays on our own and operate just through the strength of collaboration. And that's really when we sat down and kind of came up with the idea. It started off just as a loose idea then. And then as we actually began to get in the lab with each other and a few other artists, that's when it actually became a tangible thing.
Okay. Aaron, I'd like to ask you, because I have interviewed you before. I was pleasured and pleased to have you on the television show that we recorded out in Macedonia. And I recall during our conversation, you talked about going to school. I think you mentioned it was Willoughby. I'm not sure, but I know it was somewhere out east. And I'm just curious about your experience going to that high school and how it kind of opened you up to the idea of collaboration cross-culturally and specifically with young people.
For sure. And so really, I think for me, going from, inner city schools and schools like Euclid and kind of just, making my way out more towards the east, out to Willoughby, which is definitely predominantly like a white school and space. So with me being able with me being a minority in those spaces, I think like my main mission in those days was ultimately to find an identity for myself and to survive just the differences in cultures. Now, I think the one thing that I did have some advantage when going to Willoughby was that I went to like the Willoughby School District when I was really young. So it was kind of like a full circle moment. And by me kind of being able to plant those initial seeds, by the time I came back when I was much older, a lot of those friends had remembered me, from our earlier time in school together. And so I think this was really important because, you know, as I'm coming back into myself reacquainted with the school district and, you know, really being able to get access to programs like art again, for me, it was just really being able to find like that sense of like not only camaraderie, I can't even say it.
Camaraderie.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like this really just trying to find in my village, and trying to find like people, like-minded individuals. And so initially it was me, like, you know, really like the skaters taking me in because one of my first really good friends in Willoughby, Matthew Bria, his locker was next to mine, and you know, he really introduced me to skate culture and like snowboarding and those sorts of things. And that's significant because I really grew with the identity of a skater, and you know, being able to already take influences from pop culture and hip hop and, you know, like this lifestyle, this movement. It showed me that, you know, you really need a team of people to get things done. And so for me, like working with groups of people from different backgrounds, it became easier. And, you know, by the time I graduated, like high school, I was a very popular person out in Willoughby, and me being able to leverage that and to see what it looked like to work with different people gave me just like it gave me like a really quick and firsthand experience of what it was like and what it would be like to collaborate on that scale. And that was everything from me starting my first streetwear brand out of high school, which, you know, I had a business partner back then, and, you know, being able just to work with other artists on like different projects and stuff. So, you know, I really enjoyed being able to, you know, share my craft with people was one thing, but I think to build it and to take it to higher levels, and really being able to appreciate that, I think that's what really set the stage for me, and me being able to see how collaborations have been successful in the past, through me just working with some of my earlier peers, and then just the success that brought, whether it was through just different awards through Scholastics or any other kind of like award around that time when I was going to school. Like it really just was, if anything, just reassuring to me that, like, you know, as far as just what they say about, you know, if you want to go far, go together, you know.
Yes. So I'm looking at what essentially is kind of a mission statement for the Young Cleveland Renaissance, and I see that it's a vehicle for promoting emerging artists and those who are already established. There's been a lot of movement within the artist community here in Cuyahoga County within the past few years because of some things that have happened at Cuyahoga Arts and Culture and the Assembly for the Arts and its mission to elevate individual artists. And I want to talk to you guys about the importance of the narrative and how that movie night kind of accomplished the idea of promoting those artists when we return. This is Open Door with Vince Robinson on 95.9 FM WOVU Burton-Belcar Community Radio. I'm having a conversation with Aaron D. Williams and Toby Griffiths of the Young Cleveland Renaissance. We'll be right back after this.
WOVU 95.9 FM, Our Voices United, a community radio station. Our mission is to provide an inclusive and participatory media platform that connects, engages, and informs every citizen and stakeholder of our community with the goal of achieving ongoing social and economic progress for all. Do you have a question, comment, or concern? Give us a call at 216-342-2963 or email our Director General Manager Jay Williams at jwilliams@bbcdevelopment.org.
Welcome back to Open Door with Vince Robinson and my conversation with Aaron Williams, Aawful Aaron as he is known in some spaces, and Toby Griffiths, a multimedia artist from Cleveland who have collaborated to create something called the Young Cleveland Renaissance, a collective of artists operating as a vehicle for promoting emerging artists and those who are already established. I was able to attend the movie night that you had at the Capitol Theater a few weeks ago, and one of the films that I viewed was called Brother Joy. Toby had a starring role in that movie. So, Toby, I want to ask you, tell us what that movie was about. It was a little hard to follow in some ways, but it was quite a story. And again, you had quite a role in it. So talk to us about what that movie was and what we were to get from it.
Sure. So Brother Joy is basically, it's an art film. So it's surreal. It's a surreal picture, but there's still definitely some significant plot points that give the gist of the story. But essentially, it's the telling of a character, Brother Joy. It's sort of a grafting together of different cultures and philosophies. So it has a lot of Eastern philosophy in it. And then the figure, Brother Joy, is sort of this sage character. He returns from the mountains. He was seeking meditation. There's a theme in Zen Buddhism of not reaching enlightenment as the most important part of the journey, instead of the emphasis being on this idea of reaching enlightenment. But he comes back and he kind of picks up where he left off with everything. And at the end, I don't want to spoil it, but Brother Joy is based off of a few people that, I've had the pleasure of knowing. One of them was an artist. His name was Gork. God only really knows. He inspired a lot of that movie. He was a musician. So a lot of it basically is taking real life experiences, but turning them into poetry. And that's essentially what Brother Joy is a retelling of experiences with this sort of transcendental poetry added to it.
Well, I knew Gork. I think his name was Dwayne PG or something like that. They used to call him the band psychologist. And I have very vivid memories of him doing his thing at the Humidor and some of the other poetry spaces in Cleveland. So that gives me a different perspective on the film and gives me another way to understand it. And I'll tell you, one of the things that I really enjoyed about that film was seeing Cleveland in it and the Cleveland area in it. I think, if I'm not mistaken, you filmed part of it at Squires Castle.
Absolutely, yep. Squires Castle is in there.
Yes, and I think I may have seen Rockefeller Cultural Gardens somewhere in there as well.
Definitely on MLK.
Okay, and just flashing back to that night, I think I saw, and this may not have been in your film, but I think I saw the park over there on the east side next to the lake near 71st Street.
I believe that was in Will Cherry's picture. Yes, you'd be correct. Yep.
Yes,
so there was a lot of Cleveland that night.
It was, and it was rewarding to see Cleveland represented in those films. Some movie makers come to Cleveland and they shoot films and they're on the big screen and on screens across the country, and you don't necessarily relate to Cleveland being in the film, but these films definitely represented Cleveland in a strong way. The other thing is I just appreciated, coming back to the idea of narrative, having local people tell the story, because if it's somebody that you know that the Hollywood agenda is not involved, because there's always a reason for films that we see, and there's always something that they want us to see or to take in, whether we're consciously aware of it or not. Can you talk to us about the importance of, especially as young people, being able to control the narrative and position yourselves to influence folk in a positive way?
Yeah, I think that when we started it initially, I made the film Brother Joy, and I was all the work that the actors and the crew put into it. I was really proud of it, and I wanted to show it in a special way. And then I think my involvement with the Young Cleveland Renaissance has just completely enriched my original intention of showing it by adding on the other artists, Will Cherry, there was Wayne Smith III, there, to really showcase these local artists and to be able to do so having, this collaboration going on with Aaron and the other members of the Young Cleveland Renaissance completely took that night to another level. And, having the ability to rent the theater, and like you said about the Hollywood thing, that was kind of the statement, part of the statement of it was that, we're going to get the money, we're going to raise the money, we're going to rent the theater, and we're going to put together we're going to show the artist pictures that we'd like to show, And for me, that night, that was what was most special about it in the end, even more so than being able to show Brother Joy, which was a great pleasure. But I'm going to pass that on to Aaron.
Yeah, and to piggyback off of Toby's comments, for us it was really just indicating back to the scene, to like the current art space that we're in now. We wanted to really just to echo the fact that we are kind of more so past the point of waiting for the approval of the art powers at the art powers that be, and really more so just taking the narrative back into our own hands, really being able to show to the community, to the scene that we have ideas, stories, narratives that are worth being told. And it's like, it's easy to ignore maybe one of us. But it's like, try to ignore, 7 of us, 10 of us, 15 of us, 20 of us. Right. And so I think, really being able just to even show other artists like, hey, like, if you believe in your vision, strong enough, and you get other people to believe in that vision as well, then the action that is to follow that is, often great, because, you get so many creative, bright, you talking about bringing, all of these different experiences, or how can I say, you're bringing all of these different individuals with a variety experience together to speak on something and to show something. And I think, and I mean, to be honest with you, the movie night demonstration and premiere ultimately of Brother Joy was, that's really just the beginning. I think that has really allowed for us to, take some of these ideas, now that we've been able to successfully have our first public event, being able to take a lot of these ideas and concepts back to the drawing board, and just being able to analyze how we can improve and continue to deliver these experiences at such caliber.
Well, I want to underline the fact that it is so important for you to take on this work, because it seems as though there are a lot of limitations when it comes to even having an awareness of artists in our community. We have an artist directory that was created by Cuyahoga Arts and Culture a few years ago. And we have other things that are kind of emerging now to promote artists. But, a lot of artists in our community get overlooked, and it seems as though there's this cadre of artists. There are a few artists that get all the shine, and then you have a whole bunch of other artists that are kind of waiting in the periphery to be noticed. And sometimes you have to speak up for yourself. So I really do want to underscore the importance of what you are doing. And I do know that filmmaking is such an important tool for being able to tell these stories. Aaron, I know you are primarily a multimedia artist and you've got this clothing company and so forth, but what was your involvement, if any, in the filmmaking process?
So I didn't take, I can't take credit for any of the individual films. Brother Joy was already, like Toby already had that in the bag, before him and I got to this point. So basically, the being able to do the premiere at Capitol Theater was Toby's idea. My part and I think the part that I played the most crucially in all of this was more so just getting everyone together and aligned on the same page, so that from a consistency standpoint and from I guess me being able to bring my streetwear or just my company, my prior company knowledge of just having brands and stuff, I understood that with this being YCR's first event, more so packaging it all together so that when it was time for promotion, when it was time for getting the message out there, people were seeing the same consistent thing. So I think I really more so kind of played more so in the detail aspect of this. And then as far as some of the bumpers and just kind of creating the initial, I guess will kind of be the initial visual language of YCR. That was definitely a collaboration between myself, Tony Yannick, and Toby, and us really just kind of just trying to create. And really just us being able to express what the movement meant to ourselves individually, and then seeing how those different pieces fit together if they did, and then if not, just trying to find ways to kind of to mold everything together so that somebody experiencing Young Cleveland Renaissance or YCR for the first time, they can pick it up and they can kind of pick up this package thing instead of this item that is seamlessly that is kind of just has all of these different pieces and parts. So just really just being able to bring in my brand identity experience and kind of just be able to help us create a foundation for ourselves in those manners. And then I would say that was probably my main position in all of this.
Yeah. Well, everybody has a role to play, and some folks are in front of the camera, some folks are behind the camera, and some folks are doing the marketing promotion. So I'm not saying that you have to be the filmmaker, but I was just curious if you had any involvement in that. We're gonna come back in just a few moments because we had to take this break really quickly, but we'll come back. And Toby, I know you're burning up to tell me something, and I'm gonna let you do that when we get back. This is Open Door with Vince Robinson on 95.9 FM WOVU. I'm speaking with Aaron Williams and Toby Griffiths of the Young Cleveland Renaissance. We'll be right back after this on this Burton Bell Carr Community Radio Station, 95.9 FM WOVU.
We are 95.9, streaming live on www.wovu.org, as well as providing you our free mobile app. Download through Google and Apple. Don't forget to see us on our social media platforms. Stay connected to WOVU 95.9 FM, Our Voices United, a Burton Bell Carr community radio station.
In an ideal world, every neighborhood, no matter where a kid lives, no matter their background, they can choose any school they can go to and guarantee that they have high quality options. And we've already started to do this work. And, there are pockets of excellence throughout our system. That's what the future looks like.
This message has been brought to you by Cleveland Metropolitan School District and WOVU 95.9 FM. Our Voices United, Burton Bell Carr Community Radio.
Welcome back to Open Door with Vince Robinson and the conversation with Aaron Williams and Toby Griffiths of the Young Cleveland Renaissance. Toby, what did you want to give us before we took the break?
I just wanted to add that Aaron did. We made a lifestyle video, and he was the co-director, and it was largely his vision of the lifestyle video. So he has directorial chops, and so he does get down, but really without him, Will Cherry, he got Will Cherry involved. He got R.A. Washington involved. I've never met Will. I'm pretty good friends with R.A. But yeah, Aaron played a very critical part in actually weaving together all of the artists that were involved. Yes.
And I do know R.A. Washington. We go back maybe 2 or 3 decades. I'm not ashamed to say, because, I'm a little long in the tooth, but it's okay. I enjoyed Will Cherry's film as well. There were some, as you said, surreal scenery. There was some surreal scenery in your film, and some of the film that we saw on that night was kind of an experimental nature. But I think that challenges viewers because we're so used to being fed things in a certain kind of way, and it puts you in a position where you have to think about what you're seeing and put it into some type of perspective that's meaningful to you. Toby, I want to talk to you about your filmmaking. You started out as a painter, but then you decided to take on photography and film. Why did you make that choice?
It was kind of a natural progression, and it snowballed. So when I was in my last year being at the Cleveland Institute, I had a friend, and he got his photography degree from the Chicago Institute of Art. He had a number of cameras, and he gave me one of his, a smaller, not his main camera type deal. And so I started to use that to get reference for painting. Graduated, was still using the camera, experimenting with the camera, and I'm a musician too. So I always wanted to make music videos. So I made a music video, and in the process of making the music video, I said, this is awesome. I love making music videos, but it became a pretty elaborate narrative to the music video. And then that made me say, you know what, you really do just want to make a pure film. And that's kind of where it jumped off from.
Okay, so you took a chapter out of F. Gary Gray's book.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yes, okay. All right. Just curious, what was the camera that you were gifted with?
It was a Canon Rebel 2Ti, and we call it the baby camera because it was like his little baby one, and I love that camera to death. And for everybody out there that's into making videos and don't get caught up in the specs of the camera, just whatever you got, get out there and start working.
Yes. Well, it just so happens that I used to be a Canon guy, so I don't think I ever got to the Rebel. I think the camera that I was using first was the 650, and then I ended up with the 750. But those cameras shoot video and they shoot stills, and they have their drawbacks, but they can do quite a lot, and they did a lot more than some of the older DSLRs that you just could put a lens on, but you couldn't record anything with. So, yeah, that's quite a step. So you graduated from the Rebel to what?
This is a Canon 5D Mark III.
Okay, so you got the full frame joint.
Yeah, I got the full frame joint. And the reason that I got this camera was they have these firmware updates, and they had this thing called Magic Lantern that was like a hack for it, which would let it do crazy things. So I got that and got my little hack camera going. You know how we come up with our little tricks of the trade. Yeah.
Yes.
But that's a beast of a camera, and you think about what filmmakers and photographers were working with, and we have, even in music and the programs that we have today, like it's a very powerful camera, even though it's not the most necessarily up to date or has the most megapixels.
Yes. Well, within the realm of digital photography, there are so many things that can be accomplished. I'm flashing back to the days of Robert Townsend and Spike Lee, and back then I was thinking that I wanted to become a filmmaker. We didn't have those cameras back then, but now
I think
they're readily
yeah.
readily available. Out of curiosity, too, how extensive was your crew? Was it a situation where you were doing a lot, or you had a lot of folks working behind the scenes to bring those visual images to the screen?
It was a bare minimum crew. James Williams, who played Brother Joy, he was basically my assistant through the whole process. Other than that, the audio was dubbed in post. We had scratch audio to work with, but that was part of the flavor I was kind of going for anyways, but that cut back on running audio. And I'm really proud of what we did with the small crew. But it's not something that I brag about, because it's nice to have a lot of people involved in making a picture. But we did have a very small crew.
Yes. Can you talk about what some of the challenges are in terms of filmmaking? I know in some places you have to get permits, and you don't really have all the support that you need. Can you talk about some of the challenges that you may have in creating films in this area?
Yeah, absolutely. When you sit down and you write what you want to write, you have it on paper, and then you have when you start shooting and the reality of what you can accomplish and pull off. There was an interview with the Japanese filmmaker Kurosawa, and he was saying, you may not have all the equipment and the crew that you need, but you have a pencil and you can sit down and you can write it. So the writing is where it all starts from. So when you write it and you have it written, you write it exactly how you want it to be. And then essentially what I did was I went scene by scene and said, okay, how am I going to do this and where am I going to shoot it? And then you kind of bring it down to earth. And the main thing is when you're an independent filmmaker and you're making your first film or so, you really you have to let go of the perfectionism, and you just have to get the film made under whatever circumstances that you have. So you come up, a lot of it was on green screen, just in my basement, in my parents' basement, on a green screen down there, the special effects shots. And then everything else was sort of, okay, what do we have in Cleveland that is interesting, that will look unusual? A lot of people will know where it is. Some people won't, but either way, it'll be visually interesting. And then just kind of break it down scene by scene, how each scene is going to be done.
Yeah, okay. Well, mission accomplished. Aaron, I have to ask you, after hearing about your directorial debut, what are you thinking about becoming more involved in filmmaking?
I mean, honestly, I think I really enjoy just the producer element of things. I think that being a creative and being like a multifaceted creative at that, sometimes the best things we can contribute to any creative project is just really knowing our strength and playing to that. So for me, in this space, honestly, being able to just bring forth ideas that might be interesting or that could help, improve whatever it is that's being worked on for the sake of the art. Kind of just being like a mood board, of sorts. And really just working with, people that have that experience already, continuing to work with Toby, continuing to work with Wayne and Tony and some of the other insanely talented guys that's in the crew right now. And for me, I think I think that's one thing that I just really admire about Toby is that, like, I think I'm secretly, or like, I'm definitely like an undercover filmmaker. And I think for me, it was just being able to express that through illustrations, was just kind of how I was able to kind of get my kick for it. But after this project, I think I feel definitely more inclined to like explore more so those motion graphics or the motion picture side of my brain that I think so long ago that I just convinced myself, well, we can't do that. That's too hard. Or, we don't know how to, do all of that stuff. But the inspiration has always been, stuff like anime and cartoons. And I think being able to see your work on any screen, let alone like the big screen, I think is enough to unlock, any artist's imagination or to consider, what's actually possible and stuff. So, I mean, honestly, in which any way film would have me, I'm happy to contribute and to learn and to be like a student of that space, because I really, do admire like the filmmakers that I'm surrounded by. Yes.
Well, I know one of the main elements when you're putting a film together, at least one of the important things is a storyboard. And if you have artistic ability, then you're good there. So at the very least, you could do that. But I'm sure that AI somehow has crept into the picture, and it might be doing some of those things. Do you have any thoughts about the use of AI in filmmaking? And the other piece that I wanted to talk about was, in light of your artistic ability, have you ever considered becoming one who created animated films?
Yeah, so, I mean, I would say to the second part of that question, I've definitely explored and played with like AI concepts and just being able to kind of take, kind of to fire from the hip, so to speak, in terms of having an idea, being able to see what my prompt or what I can come up with in terms of a prompt to articulate to AI, and then just to see what it comes up with. I have a bunch of clips on my phone of like these really like crude, weird scenes that not a lot of people even really know about them, because I really just do it more so for just for expression. But I think it's super spooky how good technology is kind of getting in that regard. And so it's like, I've always been very open to, new forms of doing anything, where it's like I have a really strong passion for creating art in a traditional sense. However, being able to utilize technology and be able to make things faster and to concept things faster, for me as an artist, that saves a lot of, brain bandwidth that I feel like I could use towards other things. Yes. So,
well, I know, Aaron, that you have quite an imagination, having witnessed some of the art that you have created. So I wouldn't put it past you to come up with something that AI couldn't possibly imagine. I want to talk to you about the future and the present of the Young Cleveland Renaissance, because you said you're really just getting started. So we want to hear about the plans that you have and what we can expect from YCR. We'll do that when we get back. This is Open Door with Vince Robinson on 95.9 FM, WOVU, Burton-Belcar Community Radio.
WOVU 95.9 thrives daily to provide a positive forum for discussion of community issues and opportunities. Provide a creative platform for every segment of our community. Produce and distribute entertaining and uplifting cultural, educational, and artistic programming. Produce and distribute local community news, information, and public service announcements. Provide a platform for the live coverage of local community and school sports. Provide a portal for outsiders to rediscover the Forgotten Triangle and its potential. Provide media education and training to participating members of the community. Make no mistake, WOVU 95.9, Our Voices United, a solution-driven radio station.
Hi, this is Deborah Dahlman from the Legal Aid Society of Cleveland, and you're listening to WOVU 95.9 FM.
Welcome back to Open Door with Vince Robinson. We're in the final segment with Aaron D. Williams, Aawful Aaron as he is known, and Toby Griffiths of the Young Cleveland Renaissance, a collective of artists operating as a vehicle for promoting emerging artists and those who are already established. So, I think it was Aaron, you said you're just getting started. So talk to us about where YCR is going.
For sure. So 2025 is it's just going to be a very exciting year for like the movement. Being able to return to the drawing board, so to speak, after such a well-received release at the Capitol Theater. I feel like that's given everyone more than a couple of, I would say like battery charges in terms of being able to go into like these colder months. And so I know for myself personally, I plan on finishing up the body of work that I'm currently working on. So 2025, being able to produce a solo show, and that's kind of like at the top of my list for myself personally. And then I know in terms of like the collective and some of the things that I think would be really cool for us to get into is just, being able to do group shows. I know it's funny because the first time you guys actually came into conversation with each other and was in the same space was at Aawful Friends at Zygo Press last year. Or it might have been like last year. And, that was a very successful show in itself, and essentially being able to do more showcases. But, instead of it being Aawful Friends, being able to invite the Young Cleveland Renaissance movement to kind of just to take over in that space. So you guys definitely can expect more collaborations. There's some other things that are in the mix right now that I won't speak on yet, just to kind of to let all of those things kind of to finish coming into fruition. But events that would definitely, I would say, challenge people's expectation as of late of some of the things that they've been able to like go to and experience. And just really continue to find ways to work with people within the city, so people within the art scene, within the art space, different organizations and different institutions, working with them as well as being able to pour into like the artists that want to come and support the movement ultimately. And I'll say, yeah, that's mainly like what I'm thinking. Toby, am I missing anything, or is there anything that?
No, that pretty much checks out. There's just definitely, I know Aaron is getting in the lab. I'm gonna go back to painting for a little bit and kind of cool my jets on filmmaking. I do have another film that is in the pocket to be released in 2025. So I'm kind of sitting on that. I think that there'll be some other more intimate showings of Brother Joy and some of these other films. Maybe we'll work new pictures into the lineup with different artists for some of these showings. And then group shows to, expand the Renaissance, to say.
Okay, so tell us about this film that you have in the pocket, if you can.
The film that's in the pocket is one I actually started working on before Brother Joy, and it is the prologue to a full-length film that I eventually would like to make. And this film is essentially follows the character that he's somewhat of an artist. It's kind of got an artist-painter vibe, but again, it's kind of mythical. And he has these different experiences based on essentially colors. So each color has a certain lesson or certain trial that he goes through based on each color. He travels to these quote unquote planets, and they're really just these color dimensions. So you've got like the red planet, the blue planet, etc. And in each one of these planets, they sort of have a theme and different philosophical underpinnings that he goes through a series of trials. And so it's really cool. It's again, it's kind of surreal. And it's definitely Brother Joy. A lot of what is in Brother Joy. Brother Joy is kind of like the prototype of a style or a mode of filmmaking that I'm interested in developing a sort of a pictorial language.
Well, it's interesting, Toby and Aaron, that you are both artists, so you get a little bit more insight about color and the impact of color on people. But I also know that there are some metaphysical aspects to color. I mean, when you look at the 7 chakras, for instance, ROYGBIV, and then every color has a frequency and every frequency has a purpose. So I'm just wondering if you're dropping some of that deep knowledge on us when you put a film like that together.
Absolutely, man. We are speaking the same language right now. So yeah, it's kind of tapped into that vibe and exploring those kind of frequencies.
Yes. And then too, you talked about the characters in Brother Joy, and you talked about the Eastern influence. There's so much that we're missing out on with Western culture. Mm-hmm. And there's so much that we can learn, whether it be Buddhism, Taoism. I don't want to use the term Hinduism. It's not vogue anymore. But there's so much that we can learn from those Eastern sciences. And I think that it's just really time for us to come into a greater acceptance of it. For instance, when you look at the medical industry, you have traditional medicine, the allopathic process or the allopathic protocols. And then now you're seeing integrative medicine. So they're bringing things like meditation and acupuncture. And, some might even broach Tai Chi or Qigong or something like that. And if you have any involvement with those things, you know that they can be quite effective and alternatives to the traditional ways that we've dealt with things here in America.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. It's a fantastic point. Modern medicine and modern technology has brought us many things. But those ancient medicines still have a lot to teach us. And what the ancients knew about the body and our place in the universe, we have an inkling of that. So they truly were tapped into something that we can't really arrive at, but it's good to see more of these medicines being, coming into the actual hospital systems. We're always looking for a quick fix. But some of these other things like meditation, breathing exercises, those things, they really have the power to heal and preserve the body.
Since I'm here with two young folk who are involved in the art film very heavily, I want to talk to you a little bit about the challenges of raising money for your films. I'm participating in certain efforts to get funding for artists and different projects and whatnot. How are you feeling about how things are progressing within the realm of funding for the arts in our community?
Who told you first?
I'll say you first, Aaron.
All right. Well,
I'll start. I think that it's a multi-tiered problem to tackle. For instance, I tried to get a grant for the movie night to show Brother Joy. This bear in mind my grant writing skill. Maybe that could have been a hindrance. There's also so getting money is always difficult, and it's even more difficult when people don't understand what you're trying to do. So when we did the movie night, so I didn't end up getting the grant. half of it I blame on maybe them not realizing the vision, and half I take the credit for myself. Maybe they just didn't understand it. So to have the movie night and to demonstrate it, I think this idea of considering it a demonstration is very valuable, because a lot of times there is things like gatekeeping going on. There are those things. And then on the other coin, sometimes people just, you're on a whole nother plane, and they're just, they don't understand it. They don't see it until they can see it, so that's part of it too.
Yeah, Aaron, you wanted to add?
Yeah, I mean, no, I think Toby articulated that greatly. I mean, it's like, it's a lot of different things happening at once, right? So it's like Ohio, I mean, Cleveland hasn't necessarily been, at least in my lifetime or from my perspective, the sort of place that's always hip and accepting of, cool, like these cool, trendy like things, like we just are typically behind when it comes to a lot of new ideas. And so, on one end, it's like, okay, well, we can wait to do this thing that we know is going to have a major impact on our community. We know it's going to inspire people. We, literally, like, we can go down the list and check it all off. But knowing that a lot of these funds are looking to fund something very specific, and if you aren't able to write to these grants or to articulate your vision in a certain way, then you just simply won't get it. And then also knowing that you can be in a position where, you can write to everything perfectly. You can do literally everything right. And then you can get the project, but then you might not have the experience of actually carrying through the thing because of other factors. And so I think it's really interesting, because I feel like there has been a crackdown of sorts, or I think grants have been maybe a little harder because of, a multitude of factors, people, being able to finesse and finagle their way around certain grants. And so now you have certain prizes a little harder to get because, the committees that are putting them together are now taking into account different things. And so it's like, well, if we don't understand it, or if we can't see what it is that's going on, then we just won't fund it because it's safer. But then I think in our situation, and I mean, especially, everything that I've experienced up until this point has literally always been, me putting myself in a position or somebody giving me an opportunity where it's like, yeah, we're just going to make do with what we have. Mm-hmm. And then that is actually the thing that gets the attention of the people who are making the decisions and who are part of these committees and all of this stuff, to say like, oh snap. Like, yeah, they figured it out. They're doing it anyway. Look at the outcome that they're getting. Look how people are showing out. And it's like, we didn't cut them this check. Did y'all cut them this check? It's like, they like, no, we didn't cut them no check. And so it's very interesting, because it's like, it's like, okay, we can support this person now because they've demonstrated a willingness to do X, Y, and Z, or we're going to just see how far that they can go without this, because, if they're going to just keep figuring it out, and we can kind of just, I don't know, it seems like they can use that money elsewhere, then I don't know.
Yes. Well, I will say this, a lot of decisions are based on relationships, and somehow we have to get away from that into a more objective way of evaluating things. But I'm very confident that there is going to be more opportunity for artists in this community, and I think the floodgates are going to open up at some point, and we just have to continue to advocate for small groups and individual artists in our city. Thanks for joining me today on Open Door. I'm wishing you all the success with the Young Cleveland Renaissance, and I'm looking forward to seeing Brother Joy again, because it's going to mean a lot more to me this time around. So definitely let me know. Gentlemen, thanks for joining me on the show today.
Thank you, man.
All right. And as always, know yourself, love yourself, be yourself, make today your best day. Peace.